What is going on, everybody? This is the Reformation Keegan, and I'm back with another video. Today, we're not doing an analysis on a comic book. Instead, we're doing an analysis on a major television character that's actually derived from comics, but just not from the book itself. So, anyway, you get my point. We're discussing Lionel Luthor in Smallville and how Lionel Luthor himself is one of the greatest examples of real life realism. And what I mean by that is throughout his actions, his conventions, his status, Lionel is a great example of realism in a fictional setting. So, if you don't know, Lionel Luthor is portrayed by John Glover in Smallville, and Smallville is probably my favorite TV show of all time. And The Sopranos would be a close second. And if anybody wants to see me do an analysis on Tony Soprano going forward, let me know because that might be a really, really interesting topic of discussion. Anyway, back to Lionel Luthor. When I first watched Smallville, I was immediately intrigued by Lionel Luthor, especially from Pilot, which was the first episode. Lionel is a very complex character, and I think one of the things that is very realistic about him is morality, or lack thereof, depending on your opinion on him. Because Lionel is somebody who, on the exterior, will preach something positive, but then go right behind your back and then do the exact opposite of that. So Lionel has a sense of realism, not just because of that, but also because of his status. And his status is very corporate, as we know, as the head honcho of Luthor Corp until Lex takes it over. But Lionel's issues, I think, stem from his own childhood, and I think from being kind of disregarded, but also coming up through privilege. He's been able to have an inconsistent perspective on life, even though on the exterior it looks like he knows everything that he's talking about. You can never trust Lionel, but at the same time, if you look, especially in later seasons, at the kind of apparent change that he has, you can still see proverbial cracks where you can't trust him and where his own selfishness is going to come into play. If you go back to him being a father with Lex, he was a very abusive father. He was an abusive husband because his business came before everything. And Lionel, in a way, is he's almost like a dictator for his own family. And he has the ability to change the lives of anybody really that he wants to change, whether it's through socioeconomic power or through personal finance outside of Luthor Corp. Because we can see he tries to do this with Clark. He tries to control the whole Kent family, and he wants to do it because there was something in it for him. And that theme of selfishness is also very omnipresent in today's world. So he does it for greed. And maybe Lionel Luthor, from the perspective of realism, is infected by the seven deadly sins. So he has wrath when he doesn't get his way for something. He has envy in a way too, because I think Lionel deep down, and I don't know if anybody's going to agree with me on this, I think Lionel deep down kind of wishes he was in Lex's position. One, because of youth, but two, because Lex, even though he's complicated, had the opportunity to forge his own life. And he wanted to. But the thing is Lionel was so controlling over that. I think Lionel, in a way, is jealous over his own control and wishes that he was like Lex so he could go back into his own past and find a way to have more control, even more control than he already has. And that's a very, very recurring theme in life today. We can see it through bigger businesses and corporations where no matter how much money they're making, if they're making $5 billion, they want 5.1. And the reason they want 5.1 is not just because they want more money, it's because they want more control. Money's power, power is money. And that's what Lionel Luthor is very, very astute to, because he has a talent, a rhetorical talent, of persuading other people for what their best interests are. And he also has a rhetorical talent for finding his way out of anything. And if you look at corporations, they have that same talent of finding their way out of absolutely anything possible, whether it's large lawsuits, personal tragedy, financial distribution problems. They find a way out of it, whether it's legal or not, or ethical. And Lionel Luthor, he does things that are borderline criminal, but he also does things that are very unethical, and that's very, very reminiscent of the corporate world. So I think Lionel is a really perfect depiction of realism, both obviously as a chairman and obviously as a father. But also too, I think Lionel as a partner is very realistic because you have a lot of men who are in socioeconomic power who abuse their privilege. And there are many instances of that still happen today. If you look online, I'm sure you can find somebody that's very, very high up in the financial department of our society finding their way out of issues. Whether, again, they're legal or not, or ethical or not, that's a different story. But with Lionel, if you look at him with Clark, he only wants Clark to basically use as a weapon of mass destruction. And that's what other corporations do, is they find things that physically will give them power, and they use it as a weapon of mass destruction. So even if it's not physical, if you consider the internet physical, for example, the internet is a huge weapon. It's a huge rhetorical weapon, and it is controlled, and it's controlled by people. And people that have the power to control the internet can influence themselves in any physical way, shape, or form, or even any rhetorical way, shape, or form. And that's what Lionel wants to do with Clark. He wants Clark to be his proverbial network that can get him anything he wants when he wants, even if he doesn't explicitly mention that. Because if Lionel has control of kryptonite and he can distribute kryptonite, that controls Clark. Kryptonite physically controls Clark, and then when Clark is helpless, he can be manipulated as a massive strength to Lionel that he could use, or to Lex. So Lex is the same thing too, and this is where Lex gets his selfishness from his father, because Lex, as a child, observes all of these issues, with his father and how he abuses Lillian Luthor, which as a kid he doesn't agree with. But this product of tragedy ends up becoming the biggest burden on Lex. And because of Lionel's influence as a negative father, those negative influences get passed down to Lex, who cannot maintain a relationship. He cannot maintain a friendship, and the only thing he can maintain is financial prosperity. But financial prosperity, from a moral perspective, at the end of the day, doesn't mean anything if you don't have any personal success to yourself. You can have as much commercial success as you want, but if you don't have that internal personal success that you want to feel within, you're always going to have an empty void. And Lionel Luthor, he might not show it, but he has many empty voids. And even when he, is overtaken by Jor-El, you can still see seeps in the cracks, like I said earlier, with selfishness and greed and pride. And he's a very complicated individual in that sense, where he has to do things that benefit him in the short term in order to get to the long term. And again, that's a very, very corporate way of thinking. So this is just a little tip of the iceberg, but this was what I picked up on Lionel Luthor as a form of realism in a fictional environment. Let me know what you guys think, because I would love to maybe do a part 2 on this, inspect this even further, but consider this like a thesis statement and the first topic paragraph, because I can dig deeper into this, and I think it would be fun to discuss. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we are at almost 500, and I'd like to get to 3,000 watch hours so I can put out better content for you as a YouTube partner. See you soon.